I wish I knew how it would feel to be black. Not act like or be like, but be black.
The stage is dark. A single spotlight illuminates an empty desk where a woman once commanded attention with nothing but her presence and that voice. Deep, warm, unforgettable. You know that voice even if you can't quite place the name. It guided you through geography lessons, stood firm against injustice in a crumbling high school, and somehow made you believe that intelligence and kindness could coexist in perfect harmony. But who was the woman behind that voice? And why did Hollywood forget her name before she ever had the chance to become a household treasure? If you love uncovering hidden legends like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to Legends Underrated, and tell me in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Because this story deserves to be heard, and she deserves to be remembered. Her name was Lynne Thigpen. And this is the story of how one of America's most gifted actresses spent 3 decades elevating every project she touched, only to slip away in silence before the world truly understood what it had lost. On a quiet street in Joliet, Illinois, in the winter of 1948, a girl named Lynne Teresa Thigpen entered the world. Born on December 22nd, she was one of 3 daughters in a working-class family where dreams were practical and ambitions were grounded. Her parents, George and Celia, didn't fill her head with fantasies of fame. They taught her the value of hard work, honest effort, and showing up even when no one was watching. Young Lynne wasn't the child who performed in front of mirrors or announced she'd be a star someday. She drew pictures, read books, and moved through childhood with quiet curiosity rather than desperate hunger for attention. School was where she thrived, not because she sought recognition, but because learning itself fascinated her. She joined the debate team, the a cappella choir, the theater club, not to become an actress, but to explore what it meant to express something true. Her voice, even then, carried weight, deep and resonant. It commanded attention without demanding it. Teachers noticed. One high school English teacher, the kind whose belief can alter the trajectory of a life, pulled her aside one afternoon. "You could do anything if you believed in it," the teacher said. It was a simple statement, but it planted a seed that would take years to bloom. Lynne enrolled at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, majoring in English and speech. Her plan was sensible: become a teacher, help young minds grow, live a life of service and stability. After graduation, she did exactly that. She stood in front of high school classrooms, grading essays and teaching grammar, all while that nagging voice inside grew louder. At night, she'd sneak into community theater rehearsals, feeling the pull of something she couldn't quite name. The stage had a smell, a particular combination of dust and old wood and possibility. The creak of floorboards beneath her feet felt like a language she'd been born to speak. Eventually, the pull became impossible to ignore. In 1971, Lynne Thigpen made a decision that terrified her. She packed her belongings, said goodbye to the safety of teaching, and moved to New York City. She arrived in a city that was loud, chaotic, and utterly indifferent to one more dreamer with a suitcase and a hope. She took a job waiting tables, counting tips, wondering during the slowest shifts if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But even through the exhaustion and uncertainty, there was a certainty underneath it all. She belonged to this world of performance, even if the world hadn't figured that out yet. Then, remarkably, opportunity found her. Godspell, a bold new musical blending gospel, rock, and raw spirituality, was holding auditions. Lynne walked into that audition room without the polished confidence of seasoned Broadway veterans. But when she opened her mouth to sing "Oh Bless the Lord My Soul," everything changed. Her voice didn't just fill the room, it transformed it. She got the part. For the next 2 years, she poured herself into God's spell, performing 8 shows a week in the off-Broadway production that became a cultural phenomenon. In 1973, she reprised her role in the film adaptation, her face captured on celluloid, her voice preserved forever. But here's where Lynne Thigpen revealed who she truly was. When Godspell's success could have defined her, when she could have ridden that wave into comfortable typecasting, she walked away. She didn't want to be known for one thing. She wanted range, depth, truth. That decision to leave security for growth would become the pattern of her entire career. She spent the rest of the 1970s building a foundation of substance over flash, choosing roles in the magic show, The Night That Made America Famous, and working. These weren't glamorous gigs. They were the work of an artist committed to craft rather than celebrity. In 1979, she appeared in The Warriors, playing a late-night radio DJ whose face is barely shown, only her mouth and that unforgettable voice guiding the story. It was a small role, but audiences never forgot it. That voice, smoky and magnetic, proved she could create presence even in absence. The following year brought Tin Types, a nostalgic musical celebrating early American songs, and with it, her first Tony nomination. The recognition told the world what those who knew her had understood all along. Lynne Thigpen was a performer who demanded to be seen. Her nomination changed things. Casting directors started calling. Scripts arrived. Hollywood began to whisper her name. 1982 brought Tootsie, a film that would gross over $240 million worldwide. Lynne's role was small, barely a handful of scenes, but she left her mark. Whether she had 3 lines or 30, she always carried the same quiet power. This was her gift. She made everything better simply by being in it. But despite working alongside Hollywood's biggest names, Lynne never seemed to chase the spotlight. She gave interviews only when required, attended premieres without an entourage, and returned to New York theater whenever the option presented itself. Fame, for her, was a byproduct, not the goal. The late 1980s would bring what should have been her defining moment. In 1989, she was cast as Lyanna Barrett in Lean on Me, a biographical drama about controversial high school principal Joe Clark, played by Morgan Freeman. Mrs. Barrett was the determined parent fighting Clark's harsh methods, a role that could have been one-dimensional in lesser hands. But Lynne played her with empathy beneath the steel. You didn't hate her, you understood her. In a movie full of powerful performances, Lynne Thigpen stood out without demanding the spotlight. For many viewers, that's when they truly saw her. The same people who loved to cheer for Joe Clark found themselves respecting the woman who dared to question him. It was a performance that spoke to the complexities of power, motherhood, and moral conviction. Themes rarely written with such honesty for Black women on screen at the time. The success of Lean on Me brought recognition and new opportunities. That same year, she co-starred in the NBC sitcom FM, though the series was short-lived. Hollywood started to take her more seriously, but Lynne was never seduced by fame. She stayed grounded, reminding friends she was still the same woman who once waited tables between auditions. Yet, even as opportunities increased, something remained frustratingly out of reach. True stardom. She was respected, yes. Admired, certainly. But celebrated? Not quite. The kind of recognition that turns actors into household names seemed to perpetually elude her, no matter how brilliant her work. Then came 1991, and a role she almost didn't take. Where in the World Is Carmen Sandiego, a children's game show on PBS, needed someone to play the chief. At first, Lynne wasn't sure it was right for a Tony-nominated actress. A kids' show felt like a step sideways rather than forward. But when producers told her she could shape the role from scratch, she agreed. What she created became timeless. The chief was teacher, mentor, and symbol of intelligence rolled into one. She wore that signature red blazer, stood behind that desk, and delivered lines with rhythm and wit. Part teacher, part comedian, part commander. Children who watched her weren't just entertained, they were inspired. For many, especially children of color, she was the first black woman they ever saw in a position of leadership on television. That mattered more than any award ever could. The show became a phenomenon, running for years and earning multiple accolades. Lynne received 3 Daytime Emmy nominations for the role. Stories like these are why I built Legends Underrated, so make sure to subscribe for more untold tales. But to Lynne, the greatest reward wasn't the recognition. It was the letters from kids who said she made them feel smart, seen, and proud of who they were. While Carmen Sandiego made her a household presence, Lynne continued building a remarkable portfolio. She appeared in LA Law and All My Children, showing her range from courtroom drama to soap opera depth. Her performance in All My Children as Grace Kiefer, a role she played throughout the mid-1990s, earned her an NAACP Image Award nomination. Off-screen, colleagues described her as generous, private, and deeply thoughtful. She wasn't interested in celebrity, she was interested in truth. In 1997, Lynne achieved what many actors spend lifetimes pursuing. She won a Tony Award for Best Featured Actress for her role in An American Daughter, playing Dr. Judith Kaufman, a half-black, half-Jewish feminist. It was vindication, a quiet triumph decades in the making. The same woman who once waited tables in New York now stood on Broadway's grandest stage, her name echoing in applause. Yet, even in victory, she remained humble. When asked about her success, she simply said, "I've been lucky to do what I love, and that's enough." That same year, she voiced Luna the Moon in Bear in the Big Blue House, her voice becoming a comforting lullaby for millions of children. Gentle, wise, and warm, she shaped imaginations in ways that only timeless performers can. By the late 1990s, she had entered a remarkable rhythm, appearing in The Insider with Al Pacino and Russell Crowe, Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams, and Shaft alongside Samuel L. Jackson. Each role was a testament to her versatility. She carried herself with quiet dignity and purpose. The early 2000s found Lynne living the life most actors would envy. She had landed a regular role on The District, a CBS crime drama where she played Ella Farmer, a strong, compassionate statistician supporting the Washington, D.C. police chief. The show was a success. Viewers loved her presence, the calm in a world of chaos. On set, she was known for professionalism, laughter, and warmth. Crew members said she made everyone feel seen, from camera operators to guest stars. Behind that smile, though, small shadows were forming. She had started complaining about headaches. Nothing alarming at first, just a dull pressure that came and went. Friends told her to rest, but Lynne wasn't the kind to slow down. She'd been working her whole life. Stopping felt unnatural. She told colleagues she'd get checked out soon. On March 11th, 2003, she went to a doctor and had an MRI. The results didn't show anything alarming, and she returned to set as usual, cheerful and ready to film. The next day, everything changed. That afternoon, her friend found her unconscious at her Marina del Rey home. The call went out quickly. 911, the hospital, the studio. But by the time help arrived, it was too late. Lynne Thigpen had passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage that led to cardiac failure. She was 54 years old. The news spread quietly at first. A few phone calls, a few messages. Then disbelief turned into grief. For many of her colleagues, it didn't seem possible. She had been fine just yesterday. She was supposed to be on set that week. The world of television lost one of its quiet pillars. And yet, outside the industry, her death barely made headlines. Those who knew her best remembered how full of life she had been in her final days. She wasn't sick. She wasn't fading. She was thriving, reading scripts, planning new projects, laughing between takes. Her sudden passing felt cruelly ironic, a reminder that even the brightest lives can be extinguished in silence. At CBS, the cast and crew of The District were devastated. The showrunner said losing her was like losing the heart of the family. In her honor, they halted filming for days. On set, her dressing room stayed untouched. For a woman who spent her life making others feel seen, it was as if the universe had stolen her presence too soon. When the news reached fans of Carmen Sandiego, the grief rippled across generations. Teachers, parents, and former kids who had grown up hearing her voice began posting messages, writing letters, and sharing memories. Many said the same thing: she was part of my childhood. The producers of The District faced a difficult decision. Rather than write her off quietly, they chose something brave. They let her character die the way she did in real life, suddenly and without warning. It wasn't for drama, it was for truth. When the episode aired, viewers could feel it. The grief was real. There were no rehearsed tears, no forced emotion. Every actor on that set was mourning a friend, and every viewer watching could sense it. It remains one of television's most authentic goodbyes, and even now, it's painful to watch. In 2003, the film Anger Management was released, the last movie she ever made. She played Judge Brenda Daniels, standing alongside Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson. The film was dedicated to her memory, a quiet tribute at the end of the credits that most people miss. But for those who noticed, it meant everything. It was the final bow of a woman who had given her all to the craft she loved. Lynne never married. She had no children, but she left behind something larger. Generations of audiences who felt they knew her, who grew up learning from her presence even when they didn't know her name. This twist shocked the world. And if you never want to miss stories like this, subscribe to Legends Underrated today. In 2005, her longtime agent helped create the Lynne Thigpen Bobo Lewis Foundation, a nonprofit supporting actors, writers, and directors. It was exactly the kind of legacy Lynne would have wanted, something that helped others find their voice. Back in Joliet, Illinois, a new elementary school was named in her honor. Children walked through doors bearing her name. perhaps never knowing who she was, but growing up surrounded by the spirit of a woman who once stood exactly where they stood, dreaming of something more. Years after her passing, something beautiful began to happen. People started remembering Lynne Thigpen, not just for her roles, but for her impact. The nostalgia of the 1990s brought new life to her work. Reruns of Carmen Sandiego appeared on streaming platforms, and grown adults found themselves smiling at the sight of the chief once again. Social media, decades after her death, gave voice to what audiences had always felt, but rarely said. Lynne Thigpen deserved far more recognition than she ever received. Fans posted clips, tributes, and memories, writing things like "she taught us without preaching," and "she made us feel seen." Many credited her with shaping their love of learning or their understanding of strong, compassionate leadership. In academic circles, critics began reevaluating her contribution to American television and theater, noting how she broke quiet barriers, portraying authority, intellect, and empathy at a time when Black women were often confined to narrow stereotypes. She didn't shout for equality, she embodied it. Her presence on screen was itself a statement. Younger performers have since cited her as an influence, especially those who grew up seeing her as the chief. For many actresses of color in children's television and theater, Lynne became a blueprint, proof that one could lead with grace, humor, and depth all at once. She wasn't a symbol of power. She was power, soft, steady, and undeniable. Even in popular culture, her name surfaces in unexpected ways. Viewers rediscover her in films like Tootsie and The Warriors, marveling at how she could turn brief appearances into memorable moments. The stage is dark again now. The desk where the chief once stood is empty, and the voice that used to guide children through maps and mysteries has long gone quiet. But somehow, when you close your eyes, you can still hear her. That calm, confident tone that made you believe learning could be fun, that kindness could be powerful, that strength didn't always need to be loud. Lynne Thigpen's story is not one of tragedy, but of truth. She lived her life exactly as she wanted, devoted to her craft, grounded in purpose, and untouched by the vanity that so often consumes Hollywood. She may not have chased fame, but she earned something much greater: respect that endures. From a small-town teacher in Illinois to a Tony-winning actress on Broadway, from a soulful performer in Lean on Me to the beloved chief who defined a generation, Lynne Thigpen proved that the most extraordinary lives are often built on quiet choices. She didn't just act, she gave. Every performance carried her humanity. Every role felt like an act of service. Hollywood may not have crowned her with the title she deserved, but her legacy found its own way home through every child she inspired, every student she encouraged, and every viewer who still remembers the sound of her laughter. Perhaps that's the most powerful kind of stardom, the kind that doesn't fade when the lights go out. So tonight, if you remember her as Mrs. Barrett, as the chief, or as the woman whose voice once filled your living room, take a moment to honor her. Leave a message below, share your memory, or simply whisper her name, because remembering is how legends live forever. Do you think Hollywood ever gave her the respect she truly deserved? If this story moved you, help us keep her light alive, for the ones who came before and the ones still waiting to be seen. Some stars never fade, they just shine, where fewer eyes can see.